You, are you recording these talks? Okay, but you're just doing the recording. You're not doing video. What? Okay. Okay, let's go on with our second topic. Use it or lose it. Use it to lose it? No. Exercise. You got it or you don't have it? I'm plugged in, but I've not seen anything on the screen. Should I pull it out and put it in again? Or I can, it may show up now. There it is. Have to pull it out and put it in again. We're going to spend a few minutes talking about exercise. Something everyone needs to do, but not everyone does. So think about it. Use it or lose it. Oh, come on. Now it's not advancing. Well, maybe I'm just going to have to reboot my computer. Have any of you ever broken a bone and had your arm or leg in a cast? And usually when they get started, the cast is really snug and tight. But after a while, after the cast has been on a few weeks, it gets here. No, it was advancing. It's not advancing. I don't know what's happening here. When I plug your thing in, it won't advance. No, here if I take this out, but One, okay. No one can exercise for you. You've got to do it yourself, okay? So remember that. Why should you exercise? What is exercise? What types of activities are safe? How much do you need? Benefits, what's the difference between aerobic and non-aerobic? Strength, balance, flexibility, and coordination in exercise. Those are usually associated with fitness levels, but it's all part, and it can be part of exercise. And the other thing is, as you mature or get older, you may not have as much strength, you may not have as much flexibility and so on. But the thing is, if you've been exercising all the time, you're going to have much better strength and flexibility than if you didn't. So it's still important to exercise. I was going to wake up early to go jogging, but my toes voted against me 10 to 1. My toes voted against me 10 to 1. It's much more comfortable maybe to lie in bed, but you need to get up, and if that's when you're usually exercise, you need to get up and do it. If you're going to do it some other time, that's fine. Get up and do what you need to do, but just don't lie there in bed. So we've already seen this acronym, so you know all about that, but you need to remember that. Now, I like this one. Dr. Walter Bortz, the second, says, there's no drug at that time when he said this, and this was in 1982. There's no drug in current use or prospective use, that's in the future, he was thinking of the future, that holds as much promise for sustained health as a lifetime program of physical exercise. Lifetime program of physical exercise. I like that, okay? Planned, structured, repetitive bodily movement produced by skeletal muscles that requires energy expenditure. Is what I'm doing fit that definition? Planned, structured, repetitive movement produced by skeletal muscles that produce energy expenditure? Yeah, it does. So, moving, planned, structured, repetitive. Okay? The older I get, the faster I was. Yeah. When I was younger, I did lots of running. I ran quarter miles, half miles, 10Ks, that's 6.2 miles, 5Ks, half marathons, and marathons. Well, some of you don't even know how long a marathon is. A marathon is 26.22 miles. So that's from here almost up to Reading. That's 26 miles. That's a marathon. And I didn't say that's wise or something you have to do, but it's a challenge. It's like a mountain. It's there, I want to do it. My wife has even completed 2 marathons, so she's an amazing lady. The most amazing thing is she's put up with me for 62 years, and I'm very glad she did. I'm very happy with her. So, who's going to win? The top cat. Now, if one of the animal parks, they had a cheetah, and they also had a dog, a greyhound, and they showed how it was like 100 yards, and the dog would run, and they had like a mechanical rabbit, and they had the cheetah and the dog race. Of course, the cheetah won. So cheetahs, they're very fast for short periods, okay? Now, here's something else. If you plan on not exercising, I call that being slothful. You better have a thorough medical checkup to see if you're healthy enough. I'm implying that not exercising is dangerous to your life and health. And it really is. It certainly is. Okay? That's what a sloth looks like. There are boreal creatures. They are in trees. And you'll notice here behind the head, it's kind of green. Well, that's because the animal moves so so slowly that may be moss or something growing on it. That's a sloth, okay? Inactivity is a fruitful cause of disease, common cause of disease. Exercise quickens and equalizes the circulation of the blood, but in idleness and slothfulness, the blood does not circulate so freely, and the changes in it so necessary to life and health do not take place. That's an interesting statement. It's found in Ministry of Healing, page 238, paragraph 1. Okay? And here's some other comments by the same author. More people die for want of exercise than through over-fatigue. Very many more rust out than wear out. That's Councils on Health 173, paragraph 2. And I like this one. The time spent in physical exercise is not lost. Okay? Now, I like this. What fits your busy schedule better? Exercising an hour a day or being dead 24 hours a day? Take your pick. Being cheerful keeps you healthy. It is slow death to be gloomy all the time. Be happy, be healthy, be an optimist, okay? And be positive. For as he thinketh in the heart, so is he. You're going to have a good day or a bad day. It's up to you. I hate bad days, so I choose to never have a bad day. I only have good days, okay? If you wake up, it's going to be good. If you don't wake up, you don't have to worry about it. Remember that. So health is a function of lifestyle. You can choose to exercise. You can use to eat a healthy, low-fat, low-refined sugar, plant-based diet. It's up to you. I really am absolutely firmly convinced it's better for you to do it. But, if you choose not to, it's your choice, but then you won't receive the benefits, okay? A little exercise every day is more effective at relieving chest pain in people with heart disease than a common surgical procedure. 88% of heart patients who use an exercise bike daily escaped having a heart attack, severe chest pain over 4 years. And that compared to 70% of the people who had a procedure where they got a stent put in to open up those arteries. I'd much rather ride the bicycle and have them put that device in my heart. So, how about hip fracture? For those of you who are 50 and above, which is probably most of the people in this room, just wait till you get to be 60 or older. And one of the problems, one of the hazards you have to face as you get older is the risk of falling. And if you fall, the one thing you don't want to do is break a hip. So moderate activity levels like walking lower risk of hip fracture, because the statistics on hip fracture are not too good. There's about 300,000 hip fractures in the U.S. every year. Out of that 300,000, 1/4 or 75,000 will die within 12 months of that hip fracture. 150,000 will be able to get around, but they won't be able to get around as well as they should. As well as they were before, and only 75,000 are able to get around as well as they could. So you don't want to fall. It's really important. So active women with at least 24 MET hours per week, that's 8 hours of walking, had a 55% lower risk of hip fracture compared with the sedentary women with less than 1 hour of walking per week. What's the difference? 8 hours of walking a week, just a little bit, that's like 70 minutes a day, compared with less than 1 hour of walking in a week. Lowers your risk for hip fracture by 55%. So women whose only exercise is walking for at least 4 hours per week or 35 minutes per day had a 41% reduction in risk of hip fracture. So doing something is much better than nothing. How about your memory? If you exercise, your memory will be better. 10 minutes of mild, almost languorous, exercise can immediately alter how certain parts of the brain coordinate and communicate with one another and improve memory function. Okay? Exercise can change our brain and minds. Doesn't need to be intense or prolonged. And the study showed when they looked at the brains of these young people, said they had 36 students, had them all sit quietly on a stationary bicycle for 10 minutes. And on a separate visit, they pedaled gently so it barely raised their heart rate, 30% of their maximal heart rate. Okay? The tests were repeated, but the testing took place inside an MRI machine. They wanted to look at the blood flow in the brain. After riding, parts of the hippocampus lit up in synchronized fashion with parts of the brain associated with learning. The greater the coordination between the separate parts of the brain, and the better the students did on the memory test. So exercise will help you to be more effective in studying and learning, memorizing, and remembering things. Companies could save a lot of money in their healthcare costs by getting their employees to exercise. And they did some studies on this. Obese employees have a higher healthcare cost, but it was lowered if they would exercise 2 times a week, even though they didn't lose weight. Exercising 2 times a week helped save on their health insurance costs. Now, General Motors did a study, and they looked at 23,500 workers, and getting their sedentary obese workers to exercise would have saved them about $790,000 a year, 1.5% of their health care cost. So, exercise in money, 30% normal weight, 45% overweight, 25% obese. Health care costs were $2,200 for the normal weight person, okay, $2,200. For the overweight, $2,400. Obese, $2,700. So again, higher health care cost. Health care costs went up by at least $100 a year, $3,000 a year for obese employees who are sedentary. So some of the Japanese companies have purposely in their, where they have them, they give them time off during the day with their work. They take an exercise break. And they found that this helps them save money, and the employees have a better mood, and they're happy because their employer took some interest in them. Adding 2 or more days of light exercise, at least 20 minutes of exercise or work hard enough to get your heart rate and breathing up a little bit, lowered costs by an average of $500 per employee a year. So it's worthwhile, even if they're doing it on company time. So diet and physical activity ranks second only to tobacco. So tobacco is one of the worst things as far as your health goes. But then you've got to have a healthy diet, and you really need to exercise, okay? Evidence shows that exercise and fitness programs save companies money. So that's a known fact. Why you don't want to watch 8 reasons to watch less TV? It's not the TV, it's the sitting. Less cancer, heart disease, COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, less diabetes, Parkinson's, influenza, pneumonia, liver disease, and suicide. Exercise actually improves your mood. Now, this is one done on an activity. Those who watch more than 7 hours of TV daily were more than 47% more likely to die than those who watch less than an hour a day. It's the sitting, it's not the TV. I'm sure that TV isn't probably good for the brain. And also what you've been looking at your phones and your iPads and all this, be careful what you watch, because there's so much garbage out there. It's not good for you physically. It's not good for you spiritually unless you're very selective in what you watch. And it's not good for you emotionally, and especially for children. Um, I don't think children should be allowed to have a phone, and an iPad or some sort of thing that they can look at. What's kind of challenging now is because some schools are taught that they have to do that, but if children have access to something like that, they sit, they don't move. They're not exercising, they're not active. And the other thing, I think it's much better to read than it is to view a video or something. Because in reading, if you've been taught how to read, you can picture the scene in your imagination, you can see that. But if you're just watching a video, so I think that people who watch videos and movies and lots of things like that and don't read are less creative, and something to think about. It's not the TV, it's the sitting, okay? My doctor told me to start my exercise program very gradually. Today I drove past a store that sells sweatpants. He needs to get out and go in the store and buy the pants and put them on and use them. Okay. Here's the benefits of exercise, endurance training, like training for a marathon. Slows down your heart rate. 2/3 of the oxygenation of the left ventricle takes place between beats. So if your heart rate beats slower because you've been exercising on a regular basis, your heart is actually getting more blood flow. Because I ran for so many years, my resting pulse, when I was running, was usually in the 30s, the high 30s, between 35 and 40. Sometimes I would find it a little bit lower. But that's good because that means your heart's getting more blood. 3-hydroxytyrosol produces oxidized cholesterol to save cholesterol, which is then removed by the HDL cholesterol. So another benefit of regular exercise, your HDL cholesterol goes up, which means the cholesterol that's deposited in the lining of your arteries, it will pick that up, take it down to the liver, and will get it out. So you can get rid of the plaque which you have if you exercise regularly. Okay? So people who exercise on a regular basis, HDL cholesterol went up, lowered blood pressure, insulin sensitivity goes down. That means your body, your cells are able to use the insulin that your body produces. And one of the reasons there's so much diabetes in the U.S. is because people don't exercise. That means the insulin doesn't work, less insulin sensitivity. It blocks the insulin. And the other thing is because of the animal food, meat, fish, and chicken, also decrease insulin sensitivity. So when we would get patients at our wellness center up at Weimar, or I counseling patients, I tell them, one of the things that I want to do that will help you to get by with less medicine and maybe no medicine at all for your diabetes is plant-based diet, healthy, plant-based diet, and exercise. And many times when they would do that, within a week, we would have to cut down the amount of medication they were using, otherwise their blood sugars would be too low. So exercise makes your blood so it's not so thick, makes your bones stronger, prevents and or helps to control diabetes, and helps you, lowers your risk of becoming overweight and obese. If you saw my pictures when I was 11 or 12 years old, I had chubby cheeks, and I had a little tummy. It was like not a little Buddha. I mean, like a little Buddha, but I wasn't big like that. But when I was that age, I probably weighed very close. I probably weighed only 5 pounds less than I do now. And I weighed, I think, 130 pounds at that age, and I was much shorter. My current weight is somewhere between 133 and 134. People say, "Oh, you're too skinny." I said, "Well, I may be too skinny for you, but I can probably do a lot more from exercise and fitness level than you can." Okay, so decreases risk of cancers, helps control anxiety, treats depression, and helps to control osteoarthritis. One of the things about walking, which is better than running, I mean, I ran for many years, is when you walk, there's one foot always in contact with the ground. So there's less impact. If you run, there's an airborne phase in which both feet are off the ground, so there's more impact when you land. Well, in that sense, it might be better for preventing osteoporosis, but then that's a little bit more trauma. But walking is a wonderful exercise, okay? Improves stress coping mechanism and fibromyalgia, and improves intermittent claudication and symptoms of Alzheimer's. People who have or getting Alzheimer's, if they exercise regularly, they can delay the onset and progression of it. And so regular exercise is really good. Now, if you haven't been exercising and you're overweight, it would be prudent, probably, to talk with your healthcare provider and ask him if it's safe for you to become involved in an exercise program. But almost all of you can walk without any problem. But still, if you've got high blood pressure or you're really overweight, it would be worthwhile talking with the health care provider to make sure it's safe. Okay? But walking should be, but just to be safe, check it out. Now, looking at Americans and how much they exercise, only 22%, that's just over 1/5 of the population, report any activity lasting greater than 30 minutes, 5 or more times a week. My goal, my personal goal, is 10,000 steps a day, which means I've got to cover approximately 4 miles, a little bit over 4 miles. And so that's going to take me, depending on how fast I walk, anywhere from an hour and 15 or 20 minutes up to longer. Because I don't walk as fast now as I used to. I could walk before. I could do a mile in 12 minutes. But then that's like race walking. You're going like this, and I could get down to 12 minutes or even maybe 11 minutes. But now, now I'll walk more like this. So 60 minutes of moderate activity. Swimming, brisk walking, jogging, recommended to maintain weight and obtain other health benefits. I really don't encourage most of you to jog unless you've been doing it already. There's nothing wrong with doing it, but if you aren't used to it, you can do it, but you need to build up to it very, very, very slowly, okay? And if you're really serious about it, you've got my phone number and email. Talk to me, and I'll tell you how to do it if you want to do it. But I'd say for most of you, walking would be much safer. Children need to be more active. Now with all the pads and phones that kids are watching, they're not as active as they should be. I mean, I remember when I would come home from school, you go out and play. Now the kids come home from school, and they go up into their room, and they're looking on the media with their friends, communicating by phone or their iPad or something else, or looking at videos. But they're not out exercising, moving. So they need to get out and move. 12% of deaths, 250,000, are attributed to lack of regular activity. That's in the U.S. Less fit, less active, have a higher risk of high blood pressure. And sustained activity throughout life is what you want to do. Lower risk for breast cancer. I was talking to a heart specialist about a common arrhythmia found in older people. It's called atrial fibrillation. I think one of our past presidents had atrial fibrillation. And so the thing that I was just asking him questions about, he said, well, people who are more exercise-oriented, more vigorous when they exercise, may have a slightly higher risk of atrial fibrillation when they get older. It's the most common arrhythmia when people are over the age of 65. But he says, that being said, they're still better off having exercise and getting that irregular heart rate than not having exercise. He says, because, if they've got the irregular heart rate, there's things we can do to treat it and take care of it. Active octogenarian. How old is an octogenarian? That's someone in their 80s. Okay, I hope I'm active. I am in my 80s. They appear to be more focused and less easily distracted than their sedentary, non-exercising people the same age. Okay. Those who participated in higher levels of physical activity scored better on tests for their cognitive function. People 80 and older who exercise just a couple times a week are better than those who don't. So even if you haven't been, get up and move just a little bit every day and gradually increase it. And I've had people tell me, but doc says when I get up, I go exercise, I get so tired, I can only walk for 5 minutes. I say, after you're tired, 5-minute walk, sit down and rest for 5 or 10 minutes. But then get up and walk another 5 minutes. And then rest and do it repeatedly. And you find out if you do this in time, you're going to be able to walk much further. Because I remember one of my patients at Weimar, when he first came to see me in the clinic, he didn't even walk to the clinic. He had a red kind of a electric scooter-like thing, like a wheelchair, and he wrote that down. We called it Hot Wheels because it was red. Well, the first time he came down to the clinic to see me. I talked to him. He says, hi, Sam. He said, well, what are you doing with your electric wheelchair? He says, that's because I can't walk. I said, well, he said, you walked into my office. You didn't use the wheelchair to get in my office. He said, yeah, but I rode one down from the lodge. I said, well, okay. I said, how far can you walk? And he told me. I says, okay, well, that's good. I want you to do that. And like I told you, rest, walk, rest, walk. And by the end of the 18 days, he could walk around a half-mile loop without any problem. He could even walk a mile and a half. Rest, walk, rest, walk. You may get tired. That's because you haven't been doing it. But if you walk and rest, your stamina and your endurance will improve. Okay? And also, as you do that, your ability to use oxygen in your muscles, we call that max VO2. Max VO2 is a measure of physical fitness. So the higher your MVO2 is, that means you're more fit. But I don't want you to be concerned about trying to calculate that. Activity, exercise decreases depression and anxiety. And lower risk of cognitive impairment, like with Alzheimer's and dementia. We already mentioned that. Also lowers your overall death rate. Okay. how fast do you have to walk to burn fat? Is there a speed at which you burn more fat? Well, they said most people are comfortable walking at about 3 miles per hour. That's 20 minutes per mile. Okay? Scientists believe that because our bodies are energy efficient at this speed, and they found out that at that speed, you'll burn more fat. At 3 miles per hour, people draw almost entirely their calories from the fat. Now, I recognize some of you are older. You're not going to be able to walk 3 miles per hour. Don't worry about that. That's a 20-minute mile. But just get out and walk, and you will do better. Okay? Talking about Americans. Between 33 and 40% of women are trying to lose weight. Only 20 to 24% of men are trying to lose weight. High school students, 44% of females say they're trying to lose weight, 15% of males. The other thing I noticed was with COVID, they were giving examples of some young people who got COVID and were having problems, and I guess, as I recall, even a few of them had died from it, but most of the ones that they pictured and they showed in the media were obese. They were overweight. Okay? Resistance training, lifting weights, doing push-ups and things like that is good for you, so that's helpful. Not exercising is bad as smoking a pack of cigarettes. Okay? The handle on your recliner does not qualify as an exercise machine. I have a recliner that doesn't even have a handle. I just push a button. I push a button, it goes down. Push a button, it comes back up. We teach classes in our home, and the only bad thing is sometimes some of our guests who are there to learn and listen to some of the classes, they get in the recliner, especially after lunch, and they push it down, and they're sleeping away. So then I say, well, we got to get up and have an exercise break. Reduces diabetes and high blood pressure. Okay, adults need to participate at least 30 minutes. Okay, we have that. If you are pre-diabetic, this is a very good study. You're pre-diabetic because maybe your parents had diabetes, or maybe your doctors told you, you're pre-diabetic. Walking and losing 15 pounds decreased the risk of getting diabetes by 58% in this group of people who are considered pre-diabetic. Okay? They looked at 3,284 people considered pre-diabetic, moderate exercise, 150 minutes a week. That's 30 minutes, 5 times a week. Okay? They lost 5 to 7% of their initial body fat, and they decreased the risk of getting diabetes by 58%. My dad and mom both had diabetes. I don't want diabetes. So I keep exercising. I eat a plant-based diet. I want to keep my weight down. Okay? So those they staved off the disease for 3 years, and those over age of 60 cut the risk of getting diabetes by 71%. The other ones cut the risk by 58%. Okay, how often should you exercise? 5 to 6 times a week. Intensity, that's measured by your heart rate. We say 60% of your maximal heart rate, and I'll show you how to calculate this in just a moment. Time, 45 to 60 minutes a day. Okay? So here's how you calculate your exercise heart rate. Okay? Take 220, you subtract your age. Then you multiply that times 0.6, which is 60%. Okay? So in the example, we've taken a person who is 50 years of age. 220 minus 50 is 170. And you multiply that times 0.6, that's 102. So that's the exercise heart rate you would like to achieve. When you're exercising, you'll be getting aerobic exercise in, okay? But what if it's less? Don't worry, you're still getting exercise. So here I just put a little chart, makes it a lot easier for you. So if you're 20 years old, you check your pulse for 10 seconds. It needs to be 20 or more beats during the 10 seconds. You round off your age to the closest decade, So if you're 56, you round it off to 60. If you're 53, it rounds it off to 50. If you're 56, it goes up to 60. So if you're 67, you round it up to 70. So if you're 70-year-old, what you do is you do your exercise, whatever you're doing, you're walking, and then you count your pulse for 10 seconds, okay? And that will tell you what your heart rate is. Because 10 seconds, so that you don't have to multiply that times 6. Just use this number here as a guideline. It will tell you whether or not you're getting aerobic exercise. Any questions about that? Okay? You don't have to do it all at one time. Split it up. 10 minutes, 5 times a day is still 50 minutes. You can do 2 minutes, 30 times a day, 60 minutes, no. But in other words, split it up. You don't have to do it all at once. And the slower your resting heart rate may be an indication of your level of physical fitness unless you have some sort of cardiac arrhythmia. Now, these are some medicines that slow down your heart rate. Beta blockers. Atenolol is a beta blocker. Propanolol, metoprolol, carvedilol, bisoprolol. You notice all of those end in OL. Those are beta blockers. And your doctors often give them to you for blood pressure and other things, but sometimes they also give them to you to keep your heart rate from going too fast, especially for those who have problems with an arrhythmia. And, if you're in a building, use the stairs instead of using the escalator. Like sometimes I would go down to the office or go to the hospital. I would use the stairs and not use the elevator. And sometimes I would go to see, I would be going to see a doctor, and his office was on the 13th or 14th floor. It took me a little while to walk up those 13 or 14 flights of stairs, but that gave me good exercise, okay? And you're used to doing it, so it's not a big deal. And be happy that you don't have to park in the handicap space. Well, maybe you'd rather park in the handicap space so you don't have to walk so far. Well, I notice that when I go to the parking lot at stores. Some people, they want to park so close and they'll wait, blocking the cars behind them because they want to get the closest parking space they can. When I go to the stores, I'll park further away. Sometimes I'll park in the shade, and I get to walk further. That's fine. And sometimes if it's really hot, like over 100, I'll go to the mall and go walking in the mall, or go to Costco or Walmart and walk around inside there because it's a little bit cooler than walking outside. Or sometimes I have to wait till nighttime and go for the walk. Last night I finished my 10,000 steps. It was rather late, but I got it all in before midnight. And I looked at my watch, 10,600 steps. Here's the part of the run where we get some speed work. Caution, pit bulls. I remember when I was walking in Armenia, I went over there to help out one of my friends. They were holding an evangelistic series in Armenia. I've never been to Armenia. And so he says, he was looking for someone to do the health nuggets, the health part before the sermon. So I said, I volunteer. I'll be happy to do it, but someone's going to have to provide me the means to get there. Anyhow, so when I got there, I would go out and I would exercise in the morning before when we didn't have this series. And I noticed when I was running, I came to a place and at first there was nothing, there was no problem, but then I noticed there was a dog there. and the dog started to follow me and follow subsequent mornings. And I wasn't too pleased about that. So I tried going like this, a throwing motion at the dog, and then the dog would take off. But after a while, the dog knew that I wasn't really throwing anything, so he still kept running after me. So I finally had to throw some little stones at him. And then I finally decided I'd better find another place to run. That was much safer. So again, regular exercise can prevent heart disease. Okay, need to do it regularly. Inactive people are 90% higher risk for heart disease than active people. The best way, I like this one. People have operations to lose weight. The best way to lose weight is to have your stomach stapled to your upper lip. I don't know how you're going to eat if you do that, but you get the idea. I mean, they have surgery that people have had done to lose weight, and it does help them lose weight, and for a while. But usually, often, what happens is after a while, the stomach slowly starts to stretch, and they end up eating more. So, and they often regain some of their weight. Exercise improves your resistance to cancer and disease, increases the activity of your natural killer cells by 43%. So that's good. Women who biked or walked more than 1 hour a day reduce the risk of breast cancer by 19%. So that's interesting. Increased physical activity lowers risk for colon cancer, breast cancer, other cancers. Physically unfit men had 4 times the overall cancer death rate of the most fit. See, my father's family of 16 children, he has a big family, 11 boys and 5 girls. There were 6 cases of cancer. The girls, females, breast cancer and ovarian cancer. The guys, colorectal cancer. So because of that, genetic, and my father was one of the ones that had colorectal cancer. His was removed, fortunately. His associates told him, says, you need to go get checked because you had 3 brothers with colon cancer. So he got checked and he found a growth in the colon. Was a cancer, was a polyp. So because of that, that's another reason I want to exercise, but I also get an exam called colonoscopy. Also lowers the risk of prostate cancer. Okay. Are there any questions about exercise? Improves your mood. I told you that. Okay. Lower blood pressure, we've done that. Okay. Here's some examples of 300 calories in exercise. Following things at the following speeds. We're almost finished. None of you are going to play volleyball. Brisk walking, okay. Raking leaves, active gardening. Today, I went out and did some gardening in our garden. We had my friend here and I, Thomas, he said, there's a big bush over here. I said, it's worthless, no fruit. If it's got fruit, I'll save it. So Thomas and I looked at it. I said, okay. So instead of going out walking, I got out some song clippers and I worked on getting rid of that bush. And I made quite a dent in that bush. And so I got in some useful work, and that gave me my exercise. Raking leaves, active gardening, swimming, basketball, running. Um, so, any questions? Yes. Well, let me bring the microphone down.
I was going to say that some of the people that live in apartments or condos have an advantage because there's usually a lot of sidewalks, smooth sidewalks around. But then many of us live in houses, and I was going to suggest that the people who have houses, rather than walking down the road or somewhere where they would be alone if they were to fall, could make small racetracks around their house, incorporating their property so that they stay at home but still am able to walk briskly. And the other suggestion was for a thing called the tether ball. Maybe people remember the tether ball, where the volleyball of sort is attached to a rope. So one person can play it by themselves and jump and strike it from both sides of their body, and it just wraps around a pole by a rope. So that's another exercise people can get when they're alone and they are not part of a group or they can't get to a group. So exercises by themselves they can stop when you want to, rather than, well, you have to keep going since you're a mile away from home. You're too far away to just stay out there. You have to keep going whether you want to or not. So I wanted to make those two suggestions. And actually, and then there was one other third one that you didn't hit on that I was hoping that you would talk about, was the kind of exercise that comes from deep breathing exercises through a more stationary medium.
Yeah, I mean, that's very good advice to exercise. I know sometimes. My wife is not too joyful about me going out late at night to walk, but sometimes I have walked at home. In fact, when we were living at Weimar, where it was cold and rainy and so on, she says, I'll exercise if you'll get me a treadmill. So I got a treadmill for her, and I made sure she used it. I don't use a treadmill now where I live. We still have it, because in our neighborhood where we live, I'm still able to walk outside, and it's safe at night. And where I was last night, it was safe. I've walked there late at night before. And Camille says, are there any bears? I says, no, I've never seen any bears. No bears, mountain lions. I did see some skunks along the road as we drove home. And I don't know if you noticed them last night, but yeah, you need to walk where it's safe, and you definitely need to be careful. And if you need a cane or a walker, by all means use the cane or walker. I'm not opposed to that. I just want you to get out and move. And if worse comes to worse, I mean, you can stand and you can just go like this, walking in place, because you're still moving your muscles, and you're getting your circulation going. So that's okay as well. But gotta move. Use it or lose it. Yes.
In my legs too, but I had back surgery, and I had to struggle with doing any kind of exercise for quite a while. And so I learned to do chair exercises, and that's what I do at home now still. I do whatever I can with my legs to exercise them, move them, and I probably drive my husband crazy because I do recliner exercises where I just, in the recliner, I'm moving my legs. And I had my lab work done, and I had they checked my A1C because I am pre-diabetic. And doing all this stuff, I was really strenuous for a month, or 2 months actually, and I went to do my lab work again, and I dropped my A1C 1 point.
Oh, that's marvelous. Because, you can even be sitting down in a chair, and as you're sitting there, I mean, why can't you put your legs out like this, and you can do things like that, see? So that's moving, or you can even go like this while you're sitting. So within your limitations, whatever you can do, move.
I also bought some armbands like you get from the therapist. And I
Yeah,
would do
those are
arms.
good, the stretching things. And you can also get light weights. I like to do push-ups. Well, I don't really like to. I like to, but I don't like them. I mean, I like to do them so that it helps to maintain my strength. So I was debating whether or not I wanted to show you any push-ups tonight. I said, no. I mean, I know I can do it. I usually put my feet in a chair and do my push-ups.
Another good one is to put a ballet bar in your kitchen somewhere. But you don't have to put it up so high like the regular ballerinas do. Just put it lower so that you can get your leg up onto it and stretch in that way rather than trying to get on the floor and do.
Yeah, so the one that I do for my abdominal muscles, I'll put my feet on a chair or on the bed, and then I just try to lift my head and shoulders off the ground, and when I do that, I want to do as many as I usually want to do 100 or more. So I just put my hands like this, my feet are resting like on the chair, and I just go like that as fast as I can. And that helps to firm up these muscles here. Any other questions? No? Well, thank you well, wait, here's one more.
You didn't comment yet on visualization.
Okay, visualization, about what?
Well, I'm resisting saying terrible words like meditation or mind over matter. I'm resisting going there. But what I'm saying, there is value in visualizing greatness. Of course, through Jesus Christ, all things are possible, you see. So if you use Jesus Christ as your motivational speaker is what I'm talking about. So one visualizes maybe walking with him that mile or doing those bending exercises and such before you actually even do it, so that it's as if you've already been there. So any performer will know that you practice visualizing a concert, for example, or a public speaking event before you even do it, so that when you do it, it's as familiar and you've been there.
Oh, that's a good idea. That's a very good suggestion. The other thing I would encourage you to do, if you've got a phone, that you can listen to or something or whatever, you can listen to the Bible when you walk. You can listen to books from the Spirit of Prophecy when you walk. So I've been going through Mount of Blessings and Christ Object Lessons when I'm walking. I just connect it up to my phone and I listen. I mean, before I would try to read, but that's okay. It's much easier to listen and much safer to listen when you're walking, especially at nighttime. Any other questions? Thank you all for your time. Sorry we kept you here a little bit later. Pastor, do you have any words of wisdom? Would you like to offer prayer?
Sure, let us pray. Our Father in heaven, thank you for making our bodies so wonderfully, even though this world has been tainted with sin. We are grateful that you have made us to move. You have made us to put wholesome things in our bodies so that we can not only have clear communication and be who you want us to be, but to also be a blessing to those around us. And so we thank you for these principles. We pray that we will not only be hearers, but doers through your power and your word. And may you give each one of us traveling mercies, and may you wake us up refreshed to spend time with you tomorrow. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
We will also continue the series tomorrow at 10:40 and then in the afternoon from 2 to 4. God bless.